Hey guys, this is Jeremy from 78 Productions. We've been talking a lot about families this week, and so I wanted to do a quick vlog for you guys on parenting. We're currently here at Focus on the Family, and it's a great organization if you don't know anything about it. There's a lot of resources for you guys as far as teenagers, as far as working with parents that have infants and trying to prepare for a family, or teenagers that are going to be going to college and transitioning out of that, as well as family in the regards of marriages. So there's a lot of resources there that you guys can use. And I want to talk about this whole idea of family in this vlog because there's so much content here, I don't want to miss anything. And we talked about the scriptural basis, we talked about the different resources that you can find online with Simple Youth Ministry or Think Orange or Youth Specialties, and even the ideas of the different models that we can interact in youth group with the parents and with the teenagers. Different ways that we can support and empower the parents. But one of the big things I really wanted to discuss with you is that there are many different models of families. Unfortunately, it's not just a nuclear family anymore. There are gay and lesbian families, there are single parent families, there are teen mom families that are by themselves or with their own parents. And we need to recognize that there's a lot of different situations going on here. There's a lot of different models that we need to interact with. And maybe your youth ministry actually has every single one of those models. And so I encourage you guys, as you're preparing for this lesson, know who is in your youth ministry. If you all only have mother, father, sister, brother kind of families, that's great. Make that your target. But realize there's a lot of things going on in this. And whenever you start talking about families, there's a lot of emotions that are invested in it. For me, I had a really great family. I had a really great upbringing. So for me, it's a lot of warm feelings. Obviously, I wanted to get out of the house. I wanted to enjoy my friends. I wanted to see who I was. But overall, for me, what family was great. And that's just kind of the view I come from. And you yourself might have your own presuppositions, your own understanding of what family is, but understand that that's not the only thing. So when you start talking about mom and dad, a lot of those people might have never met their father, or they knew their father and they abandoned him, or a mother that's just not completely invested in the family anymore. And just recognize there is a lot of emotions with this. So when you say love your mother and father always, that might not be the issue there. But the presenting issue is that, oh, I don't love my mom because they left. And they really do love their mom. They love them so much that they're so much pain and anguish in there that they just need to be able to sit down and talk with someone. So as you're preparing a lesson on parenting, I'd highly encourage you to take an entire hour beforehand, talk with your volunteers and suggest who is present at these meetings, what kind of families do we have. Let them know that you're going to be talking about some deep and tough stuff. Just because there is a lot of different kind of families doesn't mean you have to avoid it. Just because there's a lot of hurt and pain there does not mean that you need to skirt around the issue. But at the same time, we need to walk with grace and we need to love everybody that we work with. So if your volunteers know that this is happening, then you can be able to invest in the volunteers who can then watch out for the entire youth group. And if a kid does not seem to be responding well, then that volunteer can take over and maybe talk with them in a corner or afterwards and really invest in their lives. Because that's what this is all about. It's about relationships. I talked in the very first day, Monday, about the fact that I love rules. And this is all kind of coming from the fact that I want to be able to invest in my own child that's coming along. And I want to be able to prepare the best environment for them. And I love the old Ten Commandments, I love the Old Testament Deuteronomy stuff, I love Paul's you need to listen to your parents, but that's not what it's about. It's about relationships. Parents invest in their kids every single day when they put out cereal, when they go to the soccer game, when they help out with the science fair that was told last minute. And we need to recognize that they are the front line in these teenagers' lives. These families, these parents, aunts and uncles, everything that invests in them, and we're really there to walk alongside them. I had a great youth pastor myself that invested in me and actually took the time to talk to my parents to see what was going on in their lives. At the time I didn't know it, I was just kind of oblivious to the whole thing, and I was in my own state where I wanted to know who I was, like I had said. And I love my parents dearly, but who am I outside of this family? And so as I was trying to explore that, my parents would say, oh, you need to be safe when you're out with your friends. Oh, you need to do this. You need to be home at a certain time. And I'm like, okay, yes, Mom, yeah. In one ear, out the other. But then I would go to youth group, and this youth leader would completely invest in me. And because he sat down and talked with my parents, because he took the time to see what they were teaching me, and then just basically saying the same thing verbatim, I would go to youth group and he would say, oh, you guys need to make sure you're safe out there with your friends because you guys aren't immortal, and you need to make sure that you know that your parents love you and that you express that you love them back. I was completely blown away. I'm like, that's genius. I need to be doing this stuff. And so he walked alongside them. He loved me just the way my parents loved me. And I basically heard an entire community investing in me directly. And because of that, I feel like I am the person I am today. And so I encourage you guys, know who your parents are that you work with, know the teenagers, know what values that they're trying to teach them, and assuming that everything aligns with scripture and your own philosophy, theology, that you teach the same exact stuff. And the last thing I want to really invest in is there's this idea of we need to be cool with teenagers. I work with an organization called Youth for Christ, and we actually have this book of things not to do. And so that includes games like Chubby Bunnies, where you stick the marshmallows in your mouth. People have actually passed out and died because of that game. Not doing donuts in a 15-passenger van. Silly things that we need to actually say, okay, there's a rule. You can't be doing this. And for some reason, it's this idea that we need to feel like we're cool. I don't know if it's a personal thought or that's the only way we can make relationships. But I encourage you, when you have those conversations with teenagers, when they're struggling to know who they are, just like I had been, that they want to know who they are outside of the family. Who am I? I know I'm a son to my parents, and I know I'm a brother to my brother and sister, but who am I outside of that? What will I be in college? Who will I date? Who will I get married to? What will I become? These are great questions to be asking, and sometimes they're in direct conflict with the family. And so as they're trying to understand what this stuff means, they come to you, they ask, what is your opinion? My parents are just being completely harsh on me on this one problem that's going on. What do I do about it? And we could take the cool route and say, oh, your parents are just being completely dumb. I understand where you're coming from. I get you. I relate. And that can be true. You can understand where they're coming from. That's great. But as soon as we put down their parents, I feel like we've put down a part of the kingdom. We need to understand that we are not the front line, that the parents are, that they're the ones that have the most investment in these kids. We have 20, 30, 100 people come to youth group, and we're only invested in this one person for 5-10 minutes at this time. If you take them out for coffee, you're invested in with them for an hour this week. At most, you're probably invested in them 3 hours in a single week, whereas a parent, they're invested with them 24/7. And we need to recognize that when we support the parents, they support us, that we can educate the parents in different concepts, teen online safety, drugs, what's going on at the school that you're working with. As we empower them, as we encourage the teenager to really listen to what's going on in the parent's life, that they really do love them, even though it might not seem like they're really listening. To have these different events where we can just promote the teenager and the family, empower the teenager to listen and to interact with the family, is a great time to be able to just invest in the whole church. So I'd love to hear you guys' comments below, and we will see you next week.